Thank you.
Sir Christopher Chope.
Mr. Speaker, rescinding a motion of the House when it's already been passed earlier in the session, and particularly in this case when it's been passed fewer than 2 weeks earlier, is a major constitutional decision for this House. And I think that it's absolutely right that we should be having this debate today, rather than that issue should have gone through on the nod yesterday. And I'm delighted that the Honourable Lady, the member for Bristol West, and the Honourable Gentleman, the member for Perth and North Perthshire, have enjoyed participating in this debate, having resisted the opportunity last night to insist on there being such a debate. They would have been quite happy last night for this to have been swept under the carpet. But I think it's important for this House of Democracy to debate this issue openly, and that's why I used the power of, as an individual backbencher last night, to ensure that we had this debate today, and I've got no regrets about that whatsoever. And as far... Of course I will, yes. I'm an honourable friend, actually, yes.
I recognise that the member is keen to make sure that this Parliament has its time to have its say. But we've had almost 4.5 hours of debate on this issue already. Do our constituents not deserve us to focus on actually delivering those promises we made to them, things that matter to them, rather than spending time here trying to deny things which would have had the same outcome no matter what? How much time does he want to give? Is it 10 hours, 5 hours, 15 hours? When will it be enough?
Should I express shock or outrage, Mr. Speaker, at what my honourable friend has said? Because clearly, in the time to which she's been referring, she hasn't applied her mind to the principal issue, and that is that the government encouraged everybody, including her probably, to vote for a motion on the 3rd of November. That motion was passed by resolution of this House, and for that motion to be rescinded or changed is a matter for this House rather than for the executive and the government. And what happened on the 4th of November was that the government usurped its power and said to this House, basically, what you decided yesterday is no longer valid and of a good effect. And that's why this motion is so important, because we can't pass motions and then rescind them without proper debate. And that's what I'm trying to concentrate on today. The process is absolutely fundamental to the issue of natural justice. And when I raised with the Leader of the House earlier on in an intervention, I referred to 3 of the issues which he has talked about on the 3rd of November in his introductory remarks. And he expressed then concerns which had been raised with him about the lack of communication, the lack of examination of witnesses in this case, and there were 17 such witnesses available to be examined. The Leader of the House also said he was concerned about the interpretation of the rules relating to whistleblowing, which have been reinterpreted retrospectively and much more narrowly than many people would think was justified on the basis of the actual wording of those rules, and also the issue of the penalty that was recommended, because the committee decided that it was an aggravating factor for our right honourable friend, the then member for North Shropshire, to have actually raised with the committee in evidence the impact which the inquiry and the Commissioner's behaviour had had upon himself and his family. No, I'm not going to give way. No, I'm not going to give way. I'm not.
What I would say is, if the honourable member wishes to give way, he will give way. I think his slight indication was that he doesn't wish to give way to Mr Harper. So, well, whether he's right or wrong is totally different to the rules of the House. Chris.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. And I understand that some people find this rather an issue of sensitivity. And indeed, I raised a related aspect of this with the Leader of the House, because a previous report of the Commission, the Committee on Standards, had decided that colleagues who had disputed the decision of the Commissioner for Standards, that in itself was an aggravation of their penalty. And that is completely at odds with the principles of natural justice in our country. In our country, you can defend yourself, and by defending yourself in a forum, a court of law or an inquiry, that cannot be regarded as an aggravating factor. If you admit your guilt, then that can be a mitigating factor. But to defend yourself against charges cannot be regarded as an aggravating factor. And I think that this committee, in deciding, as it did, that the Right Honourable Gentleman, the former member for North Shropshire, by referring in his evidence to the committee to the impact of the inquiry upon himself and his family, I can't see how that could have been in itself an aggravating factor when it came to sentence. And that was an issue. And that was an issue to which my right honourable friend, the Leader of the House, referred on the 3rd of November, and I think it struck a chord with many of us. Mr. Speaker, it is so important that natural justice should be allowed to take its course and be applied in our proceedings, and that we shouldn't allow ourselves to be pushed into a position of almost being subject to mob rule and mob justice, and that's why I welcome this debate, the opportunity to hear people's views about the. No, I'm not going. Mr. Speaker, I will call him my right honourable friend. Okay, my right honourable friend has got plenty of time in which to catch your eye and make his own points in his own way. But I know that he has a different view from that which I have about these proceedings. He's entitled to that view. Each of us is entitled to our own views. But what we should be doing in this democracy is actually enabling those views to be heard, and I'm delighted that this debate is facilitating just that.